Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
And why their due process rights are being so flagrantly and horrifically violated.
Bullshit.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, what's up? It's Friday. Welcome to the show. We're gonna have a fun one to end the week. So, man, we're just gonna get right to it. We got Josh Hawley. Fun times. Apparently, he's got a book about manhood. Fun. We got Marjorie Greene being blasted by Christians. That's real fun. We got, of course, Justice Samuel Alito feeling quite victimized. Yes, he's feeling like quite the victim here, and says, "Oh, it's religion. We are being victimized for religion." We have Donald Trump defending Saudi Arabia, the Saudis, after they give him some money, and of course, Jon Stewart shames members of Congress for blocking a bill to help veterans. And then finally, the McCloskeys, well, Mark McCloskey specifically, gets embarrassed by a 90s rapper. Fun. So good. All right. So if you haven't already, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helps us out as always. And why don't we dive in? Let's get to it. All right. Senator Josh Hawley wants you to know that he is a manly man. He is the manliest man that has ever manned. He is a stud, a Chad, an alpha male. Oh, yes. And that he wants you to know that his masculinity, very, very strong, and yet incredibly fragile, because it's the left that is waging war on men like himself, on the manliest men. In fact, in his new book, Hawley, which is again titled Manhood, the Masculine Virtues Americans Need, he goes on to describe how the left is taking on masculinity, destroying it. Now, again, the book is not out yet. I think it's out like next week or next month. I don't really care. But the timing of the announcement could not be better because, you know, when you think of Josh Hawley, you don't necessarily think about manliness. Oh, no. You think about this. That is manly man Josh Hawley shitting his pants after insurrectionists broke into the Capitol on January 6th. Now, this is also after raising his fist in support of those very same people that he is now running from. Yes, I know. Okay, look, Josh Hawley, not masculine. In fact, masculinity has nothing to do with the right wing. You can't even compare them. Okay, masculinity. So look, we've got very different ideas about what masculinity is. I think that it's being comfortable in your own skin as a man, to be happy to be a man, to be proud of being a man, of course. And it's also being strong in the face of adversity, yet allowing yourself to, of course, feel emotions, not to lash out at other people, to deal with that adversity in a way that is, of course, healthy. A man, of course, defends those that are weaker than he is, does not attack them for being weaker, accepts that the times in his life where he indeed also falls short and is the weaker person, and that's okay. A real masculine man is a man who strives to better himself and to make the lives of those around him better. A good example of masculinity is somebody like Bob Ross or Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers did not have to go around talking about how manly he was. You know? No, look, he was an artist. They were manly men are artists, teachers, or even just good neighbors and hardworking people. They fought for good things, and they did not back down. Mr. Rogers, for example, fought for equality. He fought for civil rights. He fought for disability rights. He fought for mental health, taught people how to deal with grief and anger in a healthy way, and also was staunchly anti-war. Because really, the people that make war for ridiculous reasons, I think it's a Robin Williams quote in the movie Toys, that war is the domain of the small penis. So now, getting back to that, Josh Hawley, what does Josh Hawley fight for? Anything good? No, he fights for nothing. He fights for himself. The guy just sits there and fearmongers about LGBTQ people, big tech, big government, and can't define either of those things. He thinks that feminism is what's driving men to seek video games and pornography. And that's why they're not working, by the way. He also wants men to feel like they're victimized, not by economic forces, which is certainly true, but no, he wants men to feel victimized because women are able to control their own bodies and to make their own money and to make their own decisions. And also, he wants men to feel victimized by trans people literally just existing. I mean, it's ridiculous. Hey, having a trans person exist, whether it be a transgender man or transgender woman, you're not a victim of that. That has no negative impacts on your life. In reality, and again, when a lot of these people like Hawley, these fake populists will come in and say, and point out very real issues that are facing men. There are increased suicide rates. There is an increase in unemployment among those groups. There's depression. There's anxiety. There are very real issues facing men today. But what he points the finger at isn't actually really the cause of it. It's not feminism that's ruining men. It's not lack of masculinity. In reality, a lot of it's capitalism. And let's be honest about that. Okay? Yeah, and look, men, women, we're all victims of capitalism at this point because there are people at the top who have rigged the system to benefit only them against everyone else. And by the way, the same people that own Josh Hawley are the ones that are benefiting from this, and they use people like him to push the bullshit manufactured culture wars. Okay? There is no war on masculinity. There is a class war. And there's been a class war for many, many years, many decades. And really what it's going to take is all of us, men, women, gay people, straight people, trans, cis gender people, black, white, brown, the 99%, the vast majority of us, to actually take on the system and get it back to where the government actually serves the people and not the elites at the very top. Hawley is nothing more than a little goddamn toady pretending to care about men while empowering the same forces that have screwed over working men, working women, and families for the last at least 50 years. That's who Josh Hawley is. Look, I want to get into a couple of jokes, by the way, to kind of lighten this up about Hawley that people have made on social media, just because. Yesterday is a hard word for hat. That's at Popat, which is always good tweets. Says, imagine, if you will, the level of misplaced self-confidence it takes for Josh Hawley to think that calling his book Manhood will go well for him. Obviously, it does not. Ms. Betty Bauer says, Amazon just announced that they will be listing Josh Hawley's book chronicling his masculinity and manhood under fiction. Oh, that's a good one. John Fugelsang says, they should send a copy to Trump so he can officially own Josh Hawley's manhood. Another good one. And finally, Tony Michaels just says, Josh Hawley writing a book called Manhood is like Steve Bannon writing a book on hygiene. Oh, we got to save masculinity. No. We've actually got to save everyone else from insecure men. All right. Let's go to Christian nationalism. Or banning writing a book on democracy. Yep. Oh, yep. That's another one. It's a good one. Too often we hear about fake Christians supporting people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. Now, we know all about those types of people, but we generally don't tend to hear a lot about the Christian opposition to them. So look, there's a whole lot of people who are religious people, who are good people, who actually are seeing through their BS. Now, one of them happens to be Reverend Chuck Curry, who recently slammed Marjorie Greene for urging Republicans to embrace Christian nationalism. In fact, here is the comments from Greene that sparked this backlash from Reverend Curry. Take a look.
I'm a Christian. How many Christians do we have here? So you see, I also call myself a Christian nationalist. And that's not a bad word. That's actually a good thing, right?
No, that's not a good thing. That's a bad thing. Christian nationalism has an incredibly dark history, and I'll go through some of that. But first, let me get to Curry, who responded to this by saying, quote, unlike Marjorie Taylor Greene, I've studied the scriptures and devoted myself to serving the church. Christian nationalism is a racist ideology incompatible with Christianity. Jesus was for all the world, not one nation. Beware false teachers like Greene. She dances with the devil. Does she do so in the pale moonlight? That's I just want to ask that. Dancing with the devil, pale moonlight. Okay. Anyway. Look, I'm not a religious person, so it always kind of is funny when someone's like, "Oh, it's the devil," you know?
It's the devil, okay?
Oh, it's the devil. It's the devil. No. Again, there's evil in people. People can be bad. People can be good. But it's not because of some weirdo supernatural force with horns and a pitchfork. Come on. But anyway, look, again, if you believe in religion, that's your thing. I don't believe in it. I have the right not to believe in it, but you also have the right to totally believe in it. So that's fine. But I also have the right to say that's kind of ridiculous. But anyway, devil stuff aside, yes, Christian nationalism is racist. And again, there's a very, very dark history that the far right is trying to recreate here. And look, I say recreate because we have already had Christian nationalism in this country. And it was represented by the Ku Klux Klan. So, you know, that's your representative. And she's saying, what's wrong with that? Why don't we just go back to that? Now, let me give you the details on how far the Republican Party has fallen into that. According to a 2021 PRRI survey, 53% of Republicans agreed with the statement that, quote, God intended America to be a new promised land where European Christians, i.e. white people, could create a society that could be an example to the rest of the world. Again, European Christians, white people. I mean, that's very, very clear wording there, okay? Now, as I mentioned, the last time the United States had a resurgence of Christian nationalism was about when the time that the KKK had their membership swell during 1919, and it led to massive race riots called the Red Summer. After World War I, and this is what happened, black service members returned from serving in the war. Now, again, if you're not in the military, you're let out of the military, then you're going to have to get a job, you're going to have to do something, right? So, look, a lot of these former service members, they come back and they want to get jobs. And of course, there's also white service members that have come back to having black people fill the jobs that they had once been working in. And so there ended up being a lot of racial resentment among white people. You also had, of course, a lot of black former service members moving up north away from Jim Crow. You had about 500,000 African Americans moving up to the northern areas to be able to go and get jobs and all that. And so there were some white people that didn't like it. Some of them formed mobs to go and attack random black people, who then created their own mobs, not only fought back, but then there were also some mobs of black people that would attack random white people for no reason. And so this ended up affecting 3 giant cities in the north. You had Chicago, Washington, D.C. Among them. And so there were massive race riots. Hundreds of people were killed. You had the state militias that were called in. African-American neighborhoods were burned. And so this is the result of a lot of this racism. And of course, you had the KKK, which was also a Christian nationalist racist organization. And they used that religion to preach that black people were inferior to white people. Now, the forces that drove these, not only anti-black, but also anti-Jewish, anti-Catholic, anti-immigrant currents, were also so prevalent in that time frame, in that decade, that were powered by a white supremacist belief that America was ordained by God as a promised land to be run by white, native-born Protestant men, and that the government should take actions and active steps to keep it that way. That's Christian nationalism. They believe that Christianity should just also enjoy a privileged position in the public square and run the government. They do not believe in the separation of church and state. Now, that is a fundamental American institution, church and state, the separation between. Now, this, again, this first white nationalist wave in 1919 was eventually defeated by mostly other Christians, joining as well with American Jews and others who believe in a more open and inclusive America. So you actually had a religious group, the more moderate of the religious groups, getting together to defeat the fundamentalists. They created the National Conference of Christians and Jews in the 1920s. That's where we get Judeo-Christian, by the way, which has been perverted by the right wing to basically represent the right-wing side, or the dominionists who actually don't care about the Judeo part at all. In fact, in their crazy end times, end day scenario, just about all the Jews are murdered. And that has to happen for Jesus to come back. So yeah, they don't care about the Judeo part at all. But when it first started out, that was actually the original meaning of Judeo-Christian, this group that actually opposed the far right. So anyway, now this group, the National Conference of Christians and Jews, actually organized a host of interfaith activities across the nation, educating people and steering people away from hate and actually to loving other people. Now, look, it looks like it's one of those times for another one of those movements, okay? And right on cue, here comes Reverend Curry, who advised people to never take religious advice from Marjorie Taylor Greene, arguing that the ideology she has promoted is contrary to the teachings of Jesus, which, by the way, she has no idea what the teachings of Jesus actually are. This is someone who didn't pay attention at all to actual religion, to what's in her Bible. They just go through and they cherry pick out the stuff that they like and ignore everything else that might actually have an impact on them. Now, he said this in a tweet: Christian nationalism isn't just a threat to democracy, it's also a threat to an understanding of Christianity that places Jesus and his teachings first. Christian nationalism is a virus. Jesus is the vaccine. In another post, Curry quoted the late Reverend William Sloane Coffin, who said this: nationalism at the expense of another nation is just as wicked as racism at the expense of another race. In other words, good patriots are not nationalists. A nationalist is a bad patriot. And I think that is 100% true. Patriotism, again, is this weirdo blind belief that you and your country are better than everyone else for literally no reason other than, hey, I was born here, I must be better than you. Now, look, patriotism isn't ignoring the flaws in your country. Okay? Real patriotism is understanding that, hey, this country, while I've had a lot of opportunity in this country, there are people in this country that have not had the same opportunities as me, whether it be based on socioeconomic status, whether it be based on their skin color, their race, their religion, etc. We should work to actually have a country that works for all of us and not everyone else. And so it should work for everyone else. And again, there are people out there that do not believe it should work for everyone else, that it should only work for them. And those are, unfortunately, in this country, the Christian nationalists. And so, look, we should also, by the way, real patriotism is about cementing a shared identity as Americans and being proud of that and working to make this country even better. And understanding, too, that while we all have that identity as Americans, we are also come from very different walks of life, and that those things can coexist. We have different walks of life, that we have different religious ideologies, that we are different, but we can come together to coexist and solve problems together. I think that's been, unfortunately, lost in our country. Now, Curry isn't the only religious person. There's also groups that are calling out Marjorie Greene and the rise of Christian nationalism. The Middle Church of New York also went after Greene's remarks, saying, Christian nationalism violates Christ. God didn't come as ruler or conqueror, but vulnerable love. The ethos of empire is fundamentally incompatible with the ethos of God. Again, I'm not a religious person, but I can tell you that Christian nationalism is 100% un-American. That's for certain. And here's why. This is from Thomas Jefferson's letter in 1802 to the Danbury Baptists. He's one of the founding fathers, by the way. I contemplate with sovereign reverence that that act of a whole American people, which declares that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state. Now, the First Amendment also, again, states that Congress shall make no establishment of religion or, again, prohibit the free exercise thereof. Now, if you actually believe in the Constitution, you would know that. You would respect that. And you wouldn't be trying to push religion into schools, religion into public places where it doesn't belong, religion into policy. You wouldn't be doing that. And if you'd read the Bible, you'd also know that, again, a God, if it exists, would not just favor one single country. It's like saying, like, oh, you know what? I prayed for this football team to win, and they actually won. Well, why does God need to choose sides on football? It doesn't make any sense. And you would think that the creator of the universe would have better things to do. But anyway, look, finally, in a statement sent to Newsweek, Curry once again, Curry said that Marjorie Greene, in her capacity as a member of Congress, is afforded a huge bully pulpit, and that she has used that pulpit to divide Americans among religious and racial lines, and said Christians have a responsibility to speak out when politicians attempt to misuse faith as a tool for division. Christian nationalism is a threat to both church and state. And I couldn't agree more. I want to see more prominent Christians speak out against the actions of extreme fundamentalists. In this case, the right wing. They are actually assaulting freedom in this country. They are trying to turn this country into a theocracy, a Christian version of Saudi Arabia. That's not what America is supposed to be. America, you're supposed to be free to have your own religion and to practice it however you choose, so long as it doesn't hurt anyone else or infringe upon the rights of others. This is not what the right wing in this country is doing. They are no longer conservatives. They're fundamentalist regressives. There's a big difference between being a conservative, which at this point applies to Democrats, and being a fundamentalist, religious zealot and regressive. I'm happy to see Curry speak up, and I'm always happy when people who are religious speak out against the extremists in their group. All right. Speaking of extremists, we're going to go to Samuel Alito. When you've been privileged, equality feels like oppression. Jules, that is an excellent quote. U.S. Supreme Court Justice U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito recently fired back at foreign leaders who criticized his and the court's opinion that overturned the constitutional right to an abortion. In his first public remarks since the court issued the ruling last month, he had warned during a religious liberty summit about a growing hostility to religion. Now, speaking in Rome at a religious liberty summit sponsored by the Notre Dame Law School, Alito decried what he had called this growing hostility to religion. In his 35-minute remarks, Alito listed outgoing UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, Prince Harry, French President Emmanuel Macron, and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as leaders who had denounced the ruling. I had the honor this term of writing, he says, I think the only Supreme Court decision in the history of that institution that has been lambasted by a whole string of foreign leaders who felt perfectly fine commenting on American law. Yes. America, who can comment on any other country's laws, because we do, especially laws in, for example, Iran and Afghanistan, who are run by religious extremists, Islamic fundamentalists, who do not give women equal rights, who murder gay people. Somehow, the country that, did these invasions into Iraq and Afghanistan, caused all this war and this suffering, can't be criticized. Can't be criticized. Now, the people who are criticizing the United States for this are countries that have actually protected women's rights to bodily autonomy. In fact, the EU voted overwhelmingly to condemn the overturning of Roe. Numerous leaders, human rights groups called this out as a fundamental erosion of personal freedom. And yet, Alito and the extremists in the court decided to turn this around and make themselves the victim, because that's what they do. That's what they do. Look, here's what he said. The problem that looms is not just indifference to religion. It's not just ignorance about religion, which is funny to say because a lot of these people who claim to be Christians are actually incredibly ignorant about their own religion, about what it actually says. But no, he adds, there's also a growing hostility to religion, or at least the traditional religious beliefs that are contrary to the new moral code that is ascendant in some sectors. Now look, this man is a United States Supreme Court justice. He had sworn to uphold the Constitution. He did not swear to uphold the Bible. If you want to preach the Bible, that's cool. Go ahead. Fucking resign. Do it today. Trust me, it'll be much better. Look, religion has no place in government. And you know what? Who says that? The Constitution says that. But these liars that lied to get on the court, they've shit all over the Constitution and then have wiped their ass with the pages. This court has done all it could to weaken the separation of church and state, to try to have religion overrule secularism, which again, secularism is just all about allowing everyone to have their own religious beliefs. Look, you cannot serve the United States Constitution and the Bible at the same time. Now, you can be religious and have your own personal beliefs, and that's totally fine. But when your job is to interpret the laws of this country based on the Constitution, not the Bible, as well as taking in precedent, when your job is to do that, you can't just go and say, oh, you know what? I actually believe that the Bible says this, and I'm going to let that overrule my opinion, overrule the Constitution, overrule rule of law and the First Amendment. Look, the majority of the court did not do this because what they are doing is they are serving a particular master. And I do not think it is God. No, in the Bible, there are no laws against abortion. In fact, the Bible teaches you how to make a potion to induce abortion. Look it up. It's in Numbers. But again, let's focus here on how Alito thinks that it is he that is the victim. He said in his latest remarks that Christians had been persecuted for centuries. Now, look, that is actually true, including in Rome's Colosseum, where he says, who knows how many were torn apart by wild beasts? Yes, that is true. That is the actual history. And again, then guess what? Why don't you get to the part where, Christianity was officially adopted by the Roman Empire and, became the dominant religious force in Europe and the West. Did you forget that part? That entire thing? I think you did. Somebody get this man a goddamn history book. No, poor Samuel Alito. Oh, you're demonizing my religion. No, I'm not. I don't care if you believe in religion. I think it's fine. I don't care if you practice it. That's your right under the Constitution. I believe in that. I believe in your rights. But your religion is not supposed to rule over everyone else. We do not live in a fundamentalist theocracy. If you don't want to get abortions, that's fine. If you don't want to do, use birth control, that's totally fine. That's up to you. That's freedom. But don't you goddamn dare tell people who do not share your religion, who do not share those beliefs, what they're supposed to do, what they're supposed to do with their own bodies. No, unacceptable. You are not a victim. You are there to control other people. That's all you want to do. That's why this religious liberty argument that they're using is utter crap. It's bullshit. Look, as a religious person, you've always been free. As a Christian in this country, you've always been free to do whatever you want. Your churches are tax exempt. You are able to serve in higher office or in the highest court of the land. And yet somehow you think you're the victim? You're the victim. You think you're the victim and not the 10-year-old girl who was raped that you want to carry, that you want to force to carry that rapist baby and then have them go through the trauma of the birthing process as a 10-year-old. And after all of that, force that child to raise a child? If you believe that, you're the immoral ones. And you're not the victim. She is. The millions of women, trans men, non-binary people, those people are the victims. Those people are the people whose lives you want to destroy in the name of your religion, not just in the name of your religion, but in the name of trying to control other people. What we need isn't more of that religious liberty. What we need is more liberty from religion, liberty from your fundamentalism, and liberty from your control. All right. Moving on. Former President Donald Trump is defending Saudi Arabia. Now, during an interview with ESPN, Trump was asked about criticism from the 9/11 families that his Live Golf tournament was backed by the Saudi government. Here is his response.
Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have, as to the maniacs that did that horrible thing to our city, to our country, to the world. So nobody's really been there, but I can tell you that there are a lot of really great people that are out here today, and we're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to celebrate, and money's going to charity. A lot of money's going to charity.
Yeah, I'm going to have to call bullshit on that, but on the charity portion, but also on pretty much everything else. Nobody's really gotten to the bottom of 9/11. Actually, yeah, we have. Al-Qaeda was behind 9/11. Now, 15 out of the 19 hijackers, and this is where it relates to Saudi Arabia, were Saudi citizens. There have also been reports of alleged connections between the hijackers and the Saudi government, including the funding from the government to Al-Qaeda. The FBI has even established points of contact between Saudi officials and the 9/11 attackers. Now, of course, our government is real buddy-buddy with the Saudis right now, and has been for quite some time. And of course, there is a reason for that. And so the government of Saudi Arabia says, oh, no, we didn't have anything to do with 9/11. And the United States says what he said, what they said. Now, gee, I wonder why they would both agree on that. Oh, right. Cheap oil. I mean, when it comes to the petrodollar, that's the only thing that really matters to them. They sell us cheap oil. So now this is why I'm furious at Joe Biden, who said he was going to make a pariah out of Saudi Arabia for their role in murdering and dismembering a Washington Post journalist on orders from Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. He went there and he gave Mohammed Bonesaw bin Salman a fist bump. No, totally fine. And they planned the whole thing too. And so we're just going to sit here under both Democrats and Republicans that the Saudi government isn't a fundamentalist terror state? Absolutely is. But the reason they do it is, of course, because, oh, they sell us oil and cheap oil. We like cheap oil. Everybody gets so mad when gas prices go up. Now, look, the left wing has been very critical, and I'm talking about progressives here, of the government of Saudi Arabia, which is, again, a right-wing fundamentalist Islamic government. Now, the right wing, of course, they just attack Muslims. They just think all Muslims are the same. That's ridiculous. But what's weird about Trump here is that he has flip-flopped on criticism and praise of Saudi Arabia. So let me give you some examples, right? So now back in 2008, during an interview on Howard Stern's show, he basically implicated that, or implied, that bin Laden was still walking around in Saudi Arabia. In fact, he said, he's walking in the woods of probably Saudi Arabia. I happen to think he's in Saudi Arabia. And then added that if he were president after 9/11, he would have gone into Saudi Arabia and gotten the families of the terrorists. So wait, you would have invaded Saudi Arabia? That's weird. I mean, again, I may not be a fan of Saudi Arabia, but it's not like I would want to actually start a war with Saudi Arabia. Ridiculous. But no, I'd go in and I'd take out the families. And then what happened? Well, later on, of course, he's like, we need to defend Saudi Arabia against Iran because, we need to defend them, but they also need to pay us. Now, when it came to George W. Bush and Obama, well, here's what Trump said about them. About Bush, he said, we have a president that goes to Saudi Arabia and wraps his arms around his people and say, we love you. We love you. We love you. A lot of love there. A lot of love, apparently. And again, he's not necessarily wrong about Bush, but he's also not necessarily wrong about Obama. In fact, he said when it was Obama, do we still want a president who bows to the Saudis and lets OPEC rip us off? All fine and dandy, right? But then, what happened? Well, when Trump becomes president, guess what he does? He immediately goes and kisses Saudi ass. And you know why? Because look, it's because they give him money. It's about the money, Lebowski. That's all it is. Look, the Live Golf Series that is happening at Bedminster. This is after the PGA Tour had pulled out. They didn't want anything to do with Trump or Bedminster. So here comes his friends, the Saudis, doing the Live Golf Series. And by the way, they're offering some very, very big money for people to come in, for golfers to come in as prize money. Way more than the PGA Tour. And so they do so because they got the money. They're backed by the Saudis' public investment fund that was overseen personally by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. So that money, Trump's pocket. Because of course. But not only that, they also, the Saudis, literally gave Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, a $2 billion loan. And it's important to note that a panel that screened these investments had objected to this and, well, were overruled. Now, they considered loaning money to Kushner to be a very poor investment. And I would say, true. Mohammed bin Salman says, no, we're going to give Kushner the money anyway. Gee, I wonder if that has anything to do with this. Or if it has anything to do with, the Trump government actually granting at least 11 different favors to the Saudi government. And the fact, of course, that we had sold them weapons to use in their genocide against Yemen. And, by the way, to get back to criticizing the Biden administration is still selling weapons to the Saudis that they can use in Yemen. There is still a genocide going on. There is still a famine going on. There's still people dying in Yemen. And we're still selling them the weapons. Again, it comes down to the cheap oil and it comes down to the money. Now, in addition to basically ignoring the very real outrage felt by the families of the victims of 9/11, who had been suing the Saudi government and being blocked by the United States government to find out just how much Saudi involvement there was in that attack, Trump also ignored the outrage of the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, saying that the fear around it seems to have died down. I didn't really care about, this Washington Post journalist. Bezos owned Washington Post. Very, very sad. Failing Washington Post with all their lies, fake news. They're, journalists being murdered and dismembered. He doesn't care at all about it. Because it doesn't affect him because he likes the money. It's all about the money. It really goes to show you how easily, not just Trump, but all of our politicians can be bought by a foreign country, and how little, at least in Trump's case, they care about the victims of terrorism. All right. Next story here. Comedian Jon Stewart is on the warpath after 41 Senate Republicans blocked a bill to give access to health care for soldiers who've been exposed to toxic chemicals from military burn pits. So now he recently went on Fox News this morning and kind of trolled the audience a little bit. Here's that.
I want to dispel some of the misinformation that has been put out about this bill. No spending that is not related to veterans has been added to this bill. No last-minute budget gimmicks have been added to this bill. This bill is purely based on toxic exposure, healthcare, and benefits to veterans. Not one word has been added to that bill from the PACT Act bill that the Senate passed 84-14. Not one word has been added to it. There is no added pork. Hunter Biden didn't sneak in and add in unrelated spending in the middle of the night. There is no pork in it. It is a kosher bill. I'd say halal, but I know how that might play on this network. There is no extra spending on this bill that is not veteran related. They're lying.
All right. So, look, I love the subtle digs there. All right. A little about Hunter Biden, because we know how obsessed Fox News and the right wing is with Hunter Biden. And of course, the halal. That's good stuff, right? Again, he is a comedian. But other than that, yeah, he actually went and talked about a very serious issue. There's a lot of condemnation. And he's absolutely right. Look, this is a bill that should have passed. How is this controversial at all? Well, it's not. It's not. And the point is, Republicans in the Senate are throwing a shit fit because Democrats decided to get something passed through, or to try to get something passed through reconciliation. That's it. I know there's all this talk about, the Democrats, they played McConnell because they passed a corporate welfare CHIPS bill that McConnell said he was going to block, even though it was, again, massive corporate welfare. Which, by the way, the CHIPS bill, which gives billions of dollars to incredibly profitable semiconductor companies, that has been a pet project of Chuck Schumer for quite some time. And again, that's the one reason that Republicans wanted to block it, is because Democrats were like, we want to pass it because we want to give our donors corporate welfare. So, but they managed to get that passed without going through reconciliation. And now, well, they announced this Schumer Manchin deal to get a little bit of climate spending, as well as, of course, corporate welfare. Look, you can see that nothing's really going to get past the Senate or our government without it being some sort of handouts to giant corporations. So let's be honest about that. Okay. But anyway, look, they're blocking this for basically petty political reasons. Okay. And why is it that it's always the Republicans that tend to make sure that the most vulnerable people always get punished when they throw the little fits. And it's because it's the cruelty that's the point. The Republican Party of today is not conservative. They don't actually have conservative values. No, they're regressive. And also are made up of very petty, vindictive people that lack any and all empathy, whose only goal is to own the libs. That's it. That's it. Occasionally, though, there is something that comes along and generally doesn't get a lot of fanfare. Okay. They can pass it, though, and they can go home and campaign about how much they care about the veterans. Now, again, they don't actually really care about the veterans, but they do need their voters to believe it. Because it turns out supporting the troops, actually supporting the troops by paying for their health care, kind of a popular thing. So now here's the cool thing about Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart is actually able to shame people. He has that platform. And everyone knows who he is. And on this alone, he's an excellent voice. Because he actually does care. He cares about these people. He fights in favor of these people. And so he does a great job highlighting these issues. And so when he goes off, people will listen. And he went off on Thursday. He called out Republicans. He called out Pat Toomey. He called out Washington Games. He called out even Fox News before he was booked on this interview. For example, when he yesterday, he went on MSNBC's and look, he wasn't just on left-wing networks or centrist networks or corporate networks. He also went on right-wing networks. He went on Newsmax. He didn't care where he got this information out at. He just wanted to get the information out. And so he told host Mehdi Hassan that he was lucky enough to get a hold of Newsmax in the morning and go there and said, quote, that might have been the first time those viewers had ever even heard about it. But Fox News refused to put me on all day. We have been begging them to get on the air all day long so that we can finally bring along some possible accountability to these senators. Now, that actually worked. They shamed the network into giving him an opportunity to come on and talk about this. Now, it's not because the network or anybody there feels shame. But it turns out that fucking over veterans and their health care, it's kind of a bad look. And when you realize how bad PR that is, well, you're going to have to do something. Oh, quick, get him on. But what's really important here when it comes to shame, again, because members of Congress don't feel shame, but they need to realize that if the voters know how bad they're trying to fuck over veterans, even though they claim to be in favor of veterans over this, BS tricks, claiming that there's all sorts of weirdo pork and bullshit on there. Americans, they're not going to buy it. They just want to get this stuff done. And so let's hope Congress is shamed in that way to do something, to do their goddamn jobs like they're supposed to. All right. So I need to put up, forgot to put a graphic in here. Let's see. Let me see if I have that. Maybe I did forget to get that graphic. All right, hold on a second. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to get prepped for the next or last story here real quick. We're going to dunk on the McCloskeys. So stay right here. We'll be back in a minute around the nation. We're back. Welcome back to the show. All right, let's do this. Last story here. Fun times. All right. Republican U.S. Senate candidate Mark McCloskey, who is famous for pointing guns at black people, just got busted for claiming the support of a 90s rapper, Vanilla Ice. So now I want to show you an image here recently tweeted out by the McCloskey campaign. And I think you're going to enjoy this one. Team McCloskey, Greene County, 731. Join Team McCloskey at the Ozark Empire Fair on July 31st. Featuring Vanilla Ice and the Yin Yang Twins. Oh, yes. Now, first of all, let me just say how sad this is. It's, wow. Okay. Now, here's the thing. It's even worse than you realize that, oh, it turns out that Vanilla Ice actually wants nothing to do with the McCloskey campaign and that he was lying. According to the Kansas City Star, the campaign ad had appeared to suggest at least that McCloskey and Vanilla Ice would be at the fair on the same day. However, McCloskey is actually scheduled to make his appearance on Sunday, two full days after the Vanilla Ice show. Oops. Now, it gets better. Vanilla Ice and his reps are like, we don't want anything to do with that guy. Vanilla Ice wants his fans to know that he is not affiliated with long-shot Republican U.S. Senate candidate Mark McCloskey after a political ad featuring the artist's names and photograph was promoted by the campaign on Thursday. In a statement Thursday evening, managers for Vanilla Ice said the rapper did not give his approval for his show to be coupled with the political ad. Bro, not even Vanilla Ice want you. Sad, baby. And that's gotta sting. Like really, really bad. Because they didn't just do this on accident. They did this on purpose. They did this on purpose. They're like, oh, Vanilla Ice, Yin Yang Twins, I'm going to try to get into that, to get some fans. Now, McCloskey and his attorney were forced to put out this correction. They said his campaign was, quote, merely saying that we're going to be there at a time when they're going to be there. Really? Well, now, wait a minute. Here's the ad. Again, you're looking at it. Okay. They're not actually going to be there at the same time. He's going to be there 2 days later. But join Team McCloskey at the fair. So he's not actually going to be, speaking at the fair. Maybe he'll be there. In the crowd or something. Not the same, bro. Not the same. So sad and pathetic. No, this is like, for example, me saying, you know what? Bernie Sanders and we're going to be doing a show together. Okay? Except that I'm going to go to a place where Bernie Sanders was at one point and do the show there. Because both of us, we would be there, but not at the same time. And, we probably aren't even going to see each other. But I was totally there. And that means Bernie Sanders is a fan of the show. No. That's not even close. Not even close. Again, this really shows you how pathetic the McCloskey campaign is, how badly they're actually doing, and how just absolutely pathetic these people are. Love it. Okay. All right. Hey, you know what? That's it. That's it for the show. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Fun stories. Appreciate it. I'm gonna go get some shout outs here. Super chats. I believe we have 1 or 2 at least. So that's good. Hey, if you want to support us, by the way, you can send super chats. I always love to read them. Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $5. Let's go over here on Twitch. A lot of new followers, so thank you. Appreciate that. All right, that's it. That's all we got. Let's do a raid here. I think we are going to. It's been a while since I did a Lumi raid. So we're going to do that. Raid into Lumiru on Twitch. Remember, they, them pronouns. Yeah, they're great. Let's do that. For everybody else, have a great weekend. Love you all. Have fun. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you all on Monday.
I will eat your ass. Oh no!
It's the devil, okay?
It's not human intelligence! I want to go to space. Disappointed!
They call them dumps, big, massive dumps.
Obama.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who can.